Hello, everybody. Welcome to A Taste of MCI with Pamela Williams. My name is Chef Pam, and I'm here to talk to you today about a dish that we make in Fruit Per One called chicken Chardonnay. Chicken Chardonnay is the dreaded practical exam of all first quarter students. By the end of your first quarter in culinary school, we're going to test you on some of the skills, cooking skills that you've developed. So chicken Chardonnay is a nice sautéed dish that's made and simmered in a sauce. So let's go ahead and get started with the sauce first, and then we'll go back to the chicken. The sauce is quite easy. We're going to start with shallots. Now, shallots are in the onion family. If you didn't have a shallot, you could use a red onion, or a regular onion would be okay too. So we're going to peel the shallot, and when we peel it, it's a very pretty little, same like an onion, it's just smaller. So we're going to go ahead and, since it's smaller, I'm going to go ahead and use a smaller knife, and I'm going to cut it in half. Now, when you see green things like that in a garlic or an onion, go ahead and take those out because it means the onion or garlic is maybe starting to sprout. If you put it in the garden, it would probably grow. And I'll put that in my little bin. Okay. Now, to mince a shallot, much like an onion, except a smaller knife, straight down, like so. And then I'm simply going to come to the end of the board and cut it nice and small. Okay. So we'll have some shallots for our dish, and we'll pick those up. I like to use a little bowl scraper. Just pick those up, and we'll put them in our little mise en place. Mise en place is a term that means everything in its place. It's a French term, but it really helps you when you go to cook on the stove that everything is ready to go. So we have our shallots. The next thing we have are some mushrooms. Mushrooms, you can use any type of mushrooms. The mushrooms that I have are nice little button mushrooms, are cute. But if you wanted to use creminis, that would be okay, or portobellos, but I think the button mushrooms are the nicest. Frequently, people ask me, what's the best way to wipe or clean your mushrooms? And sometimes mushrooms are a little dirty because they grow in sterilized dirt. So when you get them, they're not always washed. So we recommend that maybe you take a wet cloth and you wipe them off, each one. Mushrooms are a little spongy, so sometimes they can soak up water, so we don't like to leave them in the water. However, one of the old-fashioned ways that we might wash mushrooms is we take a bowl of water and we put a little flour in it. The flour acts as an abrasive, and I'm going to just make a little bit of water in here, right? Now, the idea is to keep the mushrooms in the water for as little time as possible. Right, so I've got this here, so I'll take a few mushrooms, and all I'm going to do is I'm going to go 1, 2, 3, and then I'm going to lift them out. I want to lift them out because if I just dump them out, then I'm going to dump all the dirt right back on top of it. Usually you do that and then let them dry a little bit and they'll be just fine. So should you need to wash tons and tons of mushrooms, that's a quick and easy way to do it. In and out of the water, 1, 2, 3, easy peasy. Now, slicing the mushrooms is a little bit different. It's not difficult. And I'm just tidying up because being tidy in the kitchen is so important. With a mushroom, it's round. Now, if there are some stems and things like that, I might trim them off. But with the mushroom itself, I simply I give myself a flat edge, and then I use the tip of my knife, right? Get the next one, get a flat edge, because it's round. Or I could just pull it over, just the tip of my knife. Tick, 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 tick. Okay, we want these mushrooms nice and thin. Another way you could do them, if you like, is you could quarter them. Sometimes that's also quite nice in your dishes. Okay, so we have some mushrooms and we have some shallots here. Come on back in here. Good. Now, let's go ahead and get our chicken started. What we're going to need for the chicken is some boneless, skinless breast. Not too exciting, but it works for this dish. And then maybe if you want to use a thigh as well. Sometimes I'll get chicken pieces that's cut up. Actually, I'll get a whole chicken and cut it up. But remember, anytime a butcher or someone else takes a knife to your product, then the price goes up. So if you can do it yourself, all the better. Okay, I do clean my rags and we will switch them out. All right, this being said, let's go ahead and get a saute pan onto the stove. Now, you want to make sure that the saute pan is big enough to hold the chicken that we're going to be using. And then also, let's see what our chicken is. We've got here some nice skinless breasts and thighs. And I'm going to go ahead and season them. I'm going to use a glove because I don't really want to touch raw chicken. And here at school, we've got blue gloves, very fashionable. And I've got some salt and pepper. And we'll go ahead and season those. 1, 2, 3. And you can use a little white pepper or dark pepper, either way. And then my pan is getting hot. And I don't want to use whole butter because it will burn. So I'll use either a little bit of oil or clarified butter or a combination of those two items. So let's see, we've got a little clarified butter here. Let's see if this will, oh yeah, I can see my pan is nice and hot. So be careful, be ready to go. And that being said, I'm gonna go ahead. I'm gonna put one chicken in. See how that is? Lay it down. Oh, here's another one. And I'm gonna drop it in, but I sort of lay it away from me, right? Lay it away from me. Make sure that it can move in the pan. Turn your fire down a wee bit. Here's another one. Sometimes you'll find you may even need a little more oil so that they don't stick. If they stick, chances are your pan is cold. If your pan is cold, you're not ever gonna get a nice brown on your chicken. It'll just kind of boil away. Good. Now I grabbed a couple thighs. I'm gonna grab a thigh, it has the bone on. I'll give this one a little flour. We'll see if it comes out a little different. Here we go. Let's go ahead and flour another one. Good. It looks like I'm even needing maybe a little bit more fat because they're starting to stick a little bit. Let me go ahead and get this last one in here. So our chickens are in there. I can see that it's browning pretty nicely. We'll go ahead and give a little more of a butter to this just to make sure. Yeah. Now, we'll use the tongs and we'll try to turn these over. Let's see. Here we go. Peekaboo. Ah, look at that. Nice, beautiful golden brown. But not done yet. It's not done. Flip it over. Those little thighs. Oh, isn't that lovely? Look how pretty those are. That one maybe not so much so. Now, we're gonna cook these in the sauce, but until that time, I'm gonna go ahead and put them in the oven just to keep them warm or to keep them cooking. This little piece of chicken here is the tenderloin. Sometimes that's attached to the breast. Okay, so we'll take our 4 chicken breasts here. You can see there's a little tender right there. He just jumped right off, didn't he? Good. And I'll put these little thighs. They could use a little more color, but we're gonna go ahead and put these in the oven. And then we're gonna make a sauce right here in this pan. Okay, let me put this in the oven. Good, there we go. Not too high, just for a few minutes. Now, we've got this nice pan here. I think I'll get rid of that extra oil. I don't really need that. I'm gonna add, let's see, that is a fair amount of oil. It's not too burned. So let's go ahead in here and add in our mushrooms. The nice sliced mushrooms. And we'll go ahead and add in our shallots, the 2 of them together. We'll add those in. Stir them around. And use a spoon. Use the right tool for the job. You don't stir with the tongs, you stir with the spoon. Now, if you remember, on the bottom of this pan are some sticky bits from the chicken that we sauteed earlier. Now, we want to release this. These sticky bits. It actually has a name. It's called a fond, F-O-N-D, which stands for foundation. In this case, it's going to be the foundation for our sauce. But I also don't want to stop sauteing these mushrooms and shallots. So there's a bit of a fine line. You have to use your chefly intuition. Now, see there's some brown there? Let's go ahead and release that. And what we'll do is we'll use a Chardonnay here. And I'm gonna go ahead and add it, about a cup. Now, unlike brandy or alcohol, wine does not flambe. It doesn't burn up. It does reduce, and what you do when you reduce it is you want to concentrate the flavors of the grape. If you don't like wine, then use a little bit of lemon or vinegar. What you're looking for is a little bit of tartness, because after we reduce this, we're going to add some stock and some cream. So we need some kind of sour or tart taste to stand up to the sweet cream at the end of the dish. I'm going to add just a little more. Make sure that I get that fond off. And now I want to let that reduce. Other wines that would be good for this would be a Sauvignon Blanc, which is a citrusy type of wine. Chablis, of course, which is the French version of Chardonnay. I would steer clear of any sweet wines. Those are not going to work as well, okay? Now, this is relatively dry. The term we use is au sec, almost dry. At this point now, I can add my main liquids. And I'm going to start with chicken stock. So I'm going to go ahead and add in some chicken stock, maybe 3 or 4. Remember, I have about 4 pieces of chicken there, right? And I'm going to bring this up to a simmer and let it simmer for a little bit. And then I'll also put the chicken in and we'll let it finish cooking in there. Now, while that's coming up to a simmer, let's swap over and talk about rice. One of the dishes we have to make is called a rice pilaf. Now, pilaf is really a method as opposed to an actual dish. It's both, but when you hear somebody say a pilaf, that usually implies that there's certain steps involved in making it. So let's talk about those steps. First of all, a regular pilaf will use long grain rice, straight up long grain rice, okay? Looks like this. You probably all have it in your cupboard at home, in your pantry at home. Questions. Do you rinse rice or not? I think it's a good idea to always rinse your rice because you don't know where it's been. And generally speaking, it gets rid of some of that starch on the outside, right? Now, for making a pilaf, first thing we're going to do is start with some aromatics. The most basic aromatics would be celery diced and onions diced. And I've diced them relatively small so they blend into the rice. If they're huge chunks, then I'll see them, and I don't necessarily want to see them. Okay, so I'm going to start with a little bit of butter in my pan. Now remember, rice pilaf should be white, not brown. So try not to brown the onions and the celery. In we go. 1, 2, and we'll stir these around. Now, good. And our sauce over here, let's bring that back up to a simmer. Okay, so I don't want any color on this. I'm actually sweating it. Sweating means I'm just getting some translucency. I'm cooking out some of the rawness. And also what I can do is I can season this. Where is my salt and pepper? Here we go. Season it. Now it's white rice, so stick with the white pepper and you'll be good. Now, here we've got this. Let's turn that down. Now I'm going to go ahead and just add my rice right in. Now that was 2 cups. 2 cups of rice. So with a rice pilaf, it's always 2 to 1. So I have 2 cups of rice. I need 4 cups of liquid. It's always 2 to 1. 2 to 1. So I have 2. So now I need 2 full ones of liquid. You could use stock. You can use water. I'm going to use water because I have already some chicken gravy over here that I'll be using. Okay, that's 1. Now I'll bring it up to another. Good. That's 8 minutes. Good. And then all we're going to do, don't forget one thing. Add some salt in the water. Okay, make sure you add a little salt in the water so that you're good to go. Now all I have to do is bring this up to a boil. Bring it up to a boil, cover it, and then I set it for 17 minutes. Believe it or not, it works every time. 17 minutes and you're good to go. Okay. Okay, now our sauce here is looking pretty good. I think at this point I can add in a touch of cream, and I'm gonna put my chicken breast back in. And I'll go ahead and measure, maybe a cup. You can kind of eyeball it when you see it. And we'll whisk this in. Oh, maybe I don't need all that. You can tell by visually what it looks like. Okay. So even though that's kind of thin, it will reduce as we cook it a little bit longer. So I'm gonna get my chickens now. I'll put it in here. So there are some juices here. So we wanna go ahead and put those juices in. Yum, yum, yum. And we're gonna place our chickens in very nicely. Okay. All right. And we'll put our little legs in. Now remember, it's a chicken breast. It doesn't take forever to cook. As a rule, chicken should be cooked to 165 internal temperature. You can use a thermometer, but with chicken breasts these small, they don't take that long. One thing to remember though is we want this to simmer. Simmer is gentle, like 100, 200 degrees. We don't want it boiling rapidly because that makes your chicken really tough. So bring it up to a gentle simmer, and we can put a lid on and just let it sit or gently cook on top of the stove. I could also put this in the oven. If I was limited on my stovetop space, I could put a cover on this and put it into the oven. Just remember, when you take it out, the handles are always hot. It's a common mistake to grab that. Our pilaf is coming up to a boil, and as soon as it comes to a boil, we'll be measuring 17 minutes, and I guarantee you it will be perfect every time. Don't know why it works, but it always does. And when we come back, I'm going to make a little bit of a salad and some vinaigrette to go with our lunch, and I'll look forward to seeing you soon. Okay, see you in a little bit.
Fresh thinking is being served at Miami-Dade College. Create your own recipe for success in the evolution of food culture at the Miami Culinary Institute. Learn the skills you need to jumpstart your career in the culinary arts. Turn green into gourmet and celery into salary. Miami Culinary Institute. Food, culture, innovation. Visit us at miamidadeculinary.com. Register now. Miami Culinary Institute.
Hi, everybody, and welcome back to Taste of MCI. My name is Chef Pam, and I'm going to talk to you about making a simple vinaigrette. Now, vinaigrette comes from the French word sour wine. So when wine is old, it goes sour, and it turns to vinegar or vinaigre. So we're going to make a vinaigrette with some sour wine or vinegar and oil. And the ratios are usually the same. Now, when I just mix oil and vinegar together, I can shake them up, but eventually they're going to separate. So what I want to do is, in order to keep them together, I'm going to add a little bit of mustard. Commercial prepared mustard, yes, I'm using Grey Poupon, but you could use any mustard, helps hold things in an emulsion, which means it helps keep them from separating. I'll talk more about that in another episode. Anyway, I'm going to just start with a small teaspoon of mustard in my bowl here, and I'm going to go ahead and add in my vinegar first. Now the ratio is 3-to-1, so for every 1 vinegar I add 3 oils. Doesn't matter whether I use a cup or a tablespoon. Okay, so why don't we go ahead and we'll use 3 tablespoons of vinegar. So we'll go 1, 2. And I'm using a white balsamic. Balsamic vinegar is so nice. It's sweet and it's lovely. However, sometimes the dark balsamic is unattractive on lettuces and light-colored foods. So a white balsamic gives you the same flavor, but it doesn't give you that dark color. So I've mixed these two together. And now what I'm going to do is I'm going to slowly add in my olive oil. And I'm going to use, you could use any oil. A neutral oil is best. If you like olive oil, fine. If you don't, use canola or grapeseed. Steer clear of using nut oils. If you do use a nut oil, like a walnut or a hazelnut or even a sesame oil, look at that like perfume. Just use a few drops, because if you use straight oil like that, it can be overwhelming. Okay, so I'm going to simply drizzle in a little bit at a time. Okay. And I'm going to keep mixing. And what happens is it starts to kind of grab and it starts to get a little bit thicker. I'm just making enough for this little salad today. But of course, if you want to make a large amount, you might want to put it on your mixer at home. But I'm just making a little bit. And you can see already it's kind of creamy. To dress a salad, since it doesn't get eaten or cooked anymore, we're going to use gloves or tongs to make sure that hold on one second, please. That means my rice is done. Let's just check on that. Make sure that the rice is done. 17 minutes. I'll tell you what. Perfect every time. Here's how you can often tell. Excuse me. When you look at rice pilaf, and when you take the lid off, you'll see lots of little holes. Almost if you, it's where the liquid has been coming up and boiling. So that's a good sign. There's no liquid left. Of course, the rice is what we call al dente. It has a little bit of a bite, but it's cooked fine. And then to fluff it, usually you use a little fork or something. I'm going to just put it to the side here until we're ready to plate. I've got my sauce coming back up to temperature. I'm going to bring it up to temperature and we'll finish it off. My chicken is staying warm. Let's finish this salad here. I'm going to put on let me put on some gloves so that I can look at these beautiful lettuces here. And when I went to the grocery, I just picked up what they call the mesclun mix. Mesclun mix is a mix of baby greens. And I've got some lovely ones in here that I'm going to just kind of toss in. Some red, and there's some little spinach. When you go through these greens, be careful. Watch out for little infiltrators like that. That little piece of bad lettuce can ruin the whole bag. So always have a good eye when you're looking through your lettuces. Nobody wants to get that too. It's very unpleasant to get that onto your plate. Also be on the lookout for anything that might be brown or yellowed, which sometimes happens just because lettuce is so perishable. Okay, I'm burning up my rice there. So we're going to put a little bit of this. And then usually for a salad, I go in my fridge and find whatever looks good. Some cucumbers, maybe some carrots, a few radishes, maybe a little more lettuce. Now, before we mix that, remember, once you mix your lettuces, they have to stay cold and they'll start to wilt. Some lettuces will hold up better than others. A hardy lettuce like a frisee or chicory or romaine, they might stay crunchy a little longer than these little delicate lettuces. As soon as those are dressed, they pretty much need to be served. But before we dress them, I was thinking how to make a salad a little more interesting. And I remembered I had some delicious goat cheese. I kind of like goat cheese. And usually with the salad, you want something that's kind of crunchy and gives you a little texture. So I got this goat cheese here softened. You can take that's maybe a scoop, a little portion. And I'm going to shape it so that it looks kind of like a hockey puck. And then I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to press it into some crushed nuts. Simple. I have here a mix of pistachios, hazelnuts, pecans. Any nut would be good. Maybe not peanuts. Those might not do so well, huh? I don't think peanuts would work. And then this I would just put in the oven. You want to take the chill off. You want the goat cheese to kind of be melting so that when you're eating the salad, right, it looks good. So these you could make ahead of time. I recommend that you keep them tidy. That's how you make it look good, like a hockey puck. So it's straight up and down, not just flat. And I recommend just baking those in the oven. If you try to saute them many times, the nuts have so much oil that it will burn. We'll dress our little salad. Now, when you make a salad, you don't want to just pile everything on there. Put your lids back on. You need to sort of build it up so it has some some surprises. We'll put a little down, and then maybe we'll let's tuck a cucumber in here and a little carrot, and then we'll build some more lettuces. I like to have the lettuces like, it looks like I've paid attention to them. I didn't just shove it on the bowl. All right, maybe there, and then let's tuck in a few more surprises. Here's a little radish, a little cucumber. We all like to eat a salad, and when you get to the bottom where all the goodies are, so this way you can find a few as you're eating through your salad. Good. And it looks like our sauce is coming up for our chicken Chardonnay. So let me finish this here, and we'll be good to go. Very good. Okay, thank you. Let's see how I can make that look a little prettier. And let's turn this up. I see. And here we go. Very nice. Pretty little. And you can see I have gloves on simply because I don't want to touch the food. It's not going to be cooked any further. So we like to use that rule just for safety and sanitation purposes. And maybe one little radish to smile on us. Very good. Those can go off and this can go away. And let's go ahead and focus on our nice, on our chicken over here. So the rice is done. The sauce is looking good, but it's a tad thin. So what we're going to do is we're going to thicken it with just a touch of beurre manier, which is a little whole butter and flour. It's an old-fashioned thickening. I don't need much. Just going to whisk it in. Just enough of this, a little bit of butter and the flour mixed together to tighten it up. Now, this sauce tastes absolutely delicious. If you wanted to, really good. However, sometimes when you work with cream, it gets really thick and gloppy. So make sure you have a little lemon squeezed in will offset that creaminess, that thickness, and give you a little bit of brightness. And this isn't terribly attractive, so let's go ahead and add it a pop of color. All right, look what that nice green does. We'll go ahead and put our chicken breasts, which I've got here, ready to go. I'm gonna go ahead and put that on a plate. We'll put our rice on. Let's go ahead and we'll put down a few nice asparagus. Very nice. A few nice asparagus here. Sorry, that's just not working. And then we'll put, sometimes people like to put the rice in a mold or something to make it more attractive. So if we were going to do that, we could put a mold down. Maybe we'll cover our asparagus a little bit. And we'll put the rice in the mold. Looks a little more attractive. And we'll go ahead and put the second one over here. Good. And there we are. Okay. Pack that down. You don't have to pack it down too much. You don't want the food to look like you've been playing with it. That's never too attractive. Let's take our nice little chicken breast here. One little one. Here's another one. If I wanted to, I could slice it. If I were going to slice it, I'd slice it on a little angle. And then on the top, we can take our nice sauce. And what we'll do is we'll just put a little over the top. We want to show that the chicken is nicely browned. Here we go. Here's another one. So we've got, and we'll probably serve a little on the side. Let's let those little asparagus poke out. And then we can have a couple of chicken Chardonnay with a nice green salad and goat cheese, nut-crusted goat cheese. And I think that's what we have for you today here at MCI, Taste of MCI with Chef Pam. I hope to see you in school real soon. Thank you very much for joining us.